long after it looks away. This isn't just Canadian soccer. This is the Canadian Premier League. Canada's league. Canada's game.
Well, first we were finished with Mexico, then we wrapped up in Canada, and today the World Cup has officially concluded its time on the Pacific Coast. We're down to the brass tacks. I've got coach in mind because we have Michael Finley once again joining the program here today, one of the breakout stars of this 2026 FIFA World Cup, if I do say so myself. Gareth Wheeler is on the program. My name is Adam Jenkins.
Where's my compliments? Like, what's up here?
You didn't stretch.
Michael has been brilliant, and it's novel. So I'm still absolutely basking in the sunshine that Michael has brought Bet365 for the win. It is a beautiful home for the beautiful game. And boys, we will be discussing plenty today, including Jesse Marsch joining Canada's U-20 side, Jeevan Badwal of the Vancouver Whitecaps on the program as well. But we will begin with the final match in Los Angeles. It was Belgium, it was Spain, and it looked, gents, like we were destined for extra time, only for Mikel Moreno to play the hero once again. An 88th minute goal, some controversy, or at least some problems for the Belgians with goalkeepers, lots to sink our teeth into. So let's start there, Gareth. Open floor to you. Spain scared, but they survive and they're off to the semis.
I'm not sure how scared they were. This Spanish side isn't good. They are great. And inevitably they were going to concede at some point over the course of this tournament. Before we get into Spain and all the attributes that they bring to the table, you got to tip your cap to Belgium because they started the tournament slow. The old moniker of them underachieving in major competitions seemed like it was going to follow them along here at the 2026 World Cup. I thought they really put on a good show for themselves, especially considering losing Tielemans, probably the most important player in the pre-match warm-up due to a hamstring. Onana was out. He was injured in the last game. And just Rudy Garcia just continued to pull all the right strings to, at the very least, make them a competitive side throughout this game. They tested Spain in a way that they've rarely been tested over the course of this tournament, and they deserve some credit for that. The problem was, inevitably, what sunk them was a goalkeeping error. And I'm a massive Manchester United supporter. Sonny Lamens has been fantastic since joining Manchester United. Thibaut Courtois went out through injury. I actually thought that Courtois could have done better on the first goal as well, but it was the second one that sunk him. Barcia shot from distance, completely spills it right onto the foot of Mikel Moreno, back-to-back games. Moreno, the super sub, comes on to provide a match winner for Spain. So it's hard luck on Belgium. Their biggest contribution to this tournament will be doing the world a favor by dispatching of the Americans last time out. But Spain, I mean, they were one of the favorites coming into this tournament, and I think they showed why. Lamine Yamal's getting fitter, which means he's getting better as the tournament goes on. Had 6 shots in this game, and I think he drew about 5 fouls committed by opponents as well. He was everywhere. Good to see Nico Williams come on at the end. And De La Fuente is such a good manager. He understands that he can beat you with different players in a different way. It took some guts to go on and start Fabian Ruiz from the start, sitting Pedri, because Pedri basically plays every game beside Rodri, bringing players like Marino in at the right times. I just feel like he really has a good grasp on his team. They're inevitably going to concede at some point, but they carry on. And not getting too far ahead of ourselves, but France, Spain, I mean, it's the game that everyone wanted to see when the knockout stage bracket was put together. And we get this clash of the Titans, which also corresponds with a clash of styles as well. I don't think either team are perfect. Both teams are very, very good. And then the footballing world gets to sit back and enjoy next week.
2 of the top 4 in the rankings going into the semifinals. I agree with you, Wheels. It's a great opportunity to celebrate football at the highest level. today's game, I was sitting there going, "Oh, can someone please score?" Because it was going to be 30 minutes of my life I was never going to get back, and I'm glad that they did. Um, but that no disrespect to Belgium, I agree with you, and hopefully later in the show I don't agree with you, as I'm trying to avoid that. But in terms of what Spain was doing, is I found them reflectively looking at the way they used to play prior to the Euros. And as they've introduced some of the new generation, one of the key elements to this is their action behind the back fours that they play. When there's vertical running and there's vertical movement, some sort of action, they always seem to create better than they do from this lateral movement they do to try and numbers up in the wide areas. I mean, Belgium today, I thought, did very well in the double up as much as they could against someone like Yamal, and on the other side at times. And then when Nico came in. But I think it's really important that this team sort of stays within their sort of methodology of how they were affecting teams. And that is having some form of action in behind the back four and vertically run, because it creates so much activity both behind and in front of the back four that's when their players can be really, really, I think, effective in these small spaces, and you're getting your second and third man running. So I'm really glad to see them go through, because I think De La Fuente has really put together a strong group here, and they've done what they've had to do. And like these great teams in tournaments, they just do enough to get them to the most important games in the tournament.
So as we bid farewell to Belgium's Red Devils, a thought quickly on Charles de Ketelaere, who had a brilliant goal once again. Atalanta might be making some money in the not-so-distant future. This is the road to the World Cup final. As we've discussed, we have one semi-final set. We'll have a doubleheader tomorrow to conclude the quarterfinal round. England and Norway, Argentina and the Swiss. But since Gareth and Michael rightfully teased it, let's talk about the semi-final, France and Spain. It should be an absolute doozy, a great game that we're all very much looking forward to. Some initial thoughts, Mr. Finley, on what we can expect from our wonderful couches or at the sports bars as we take this one in.
What I'm hoping for is an absolute football festival, because these for me, and all due respect to the other teams, but from my perspective, these are the two best teams in this tournament, both tactically and technically. And most importantly, as the game's about fans from an entertainment point of view, when these two teams play at the highest level, playing the way they can, it's really a fantastic festival of football. And I'm expecting two teams that are going to respect each other, but I also think they have a great sense of authority in the way that they play themselves, and they're going to go at each other. And I'm really hopeful that Tuesday is one of those days that everybody remembers as being a great day for football in general, a great day for this World Cup. From Spain's point of view, they're going to have to deal with speed. They're going to have to deal with the idea that this team can play on both sides of the pitch, and they are very direct and they're very devastating once they get on the front foot, and they're going to have to deal with that. In terms of what France has got to deal with is now they're going to meet a team that I think is going to occupy the ball as much as they may occupy the ball, which they haven't seen that much of. And so how do you deal with that? And how do you deal with their star two players, in my opinion, in sort of Rodri and Yamal, and how are you going to deal with their ability to create things in wide areas? So I'm just looking for a great game. I'm really excited about that. And the best part, from my point of view, is you can just be a fan and really sit there and enjoy football.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Typically, in these semifinal, quarterfinal matchups, things are really tight, really cagey. And it depends on the conditions. I said it on yesterday's show, playing a 4 p.m. game in Boston in 35-degree heat did nothing for the tempo or the rhythm of that game. Like, Morocco just couldn't run, and they've received all kinds of criticism. I criticized the conditions before I criticized them. Spain, a much more talented side than Morocco, and I think they can challenge France in a number of ways. I think France is poor across their back line, but they're given so much grace because they possess such a threat in attack that teams are really reluctant to come out and really test them. Upamecano is a mistake waiting to happen. Digne is more known for his attacking prowess than anything else. Probably the right side of the defense is better than the left. But I mean, Digne and company are going to have Lamine Yamal running at them all game long. And if Spain can produce and be on the ball and play with a little bit of tempo, much more, I think France can be tested in a way that they really haven't been tested over the course of this tournament. That's where I would hope to attack. At the same time, I think Spain, their weakness is at center back. Like, Laporte and Kubarsi are no sure thing at those positions. And the way that their fullbacks and Porro and Cucurella just continue to bomb on, like, how brave are Spain going to be? That is the biggest question here. Because
and you can add goalkeepers to that too.
Numbers forward, I mean, you're just opening yourself up to the counterattack, Dembele and Olise and Mbappe, and that generally doesn't work out well. So I'm hoping that we see an open game where it's two teams going toe to toe. I'm a little bit reluctant, though, to say that that's going to happen. Simply put, it might be a little bit of a chess skip match. If I'm Spain, though, however, like, I'm not afraid of France. They beat them in on their way to winning the Euros in 2024. De La Fuente hasn't lost a knockout stage match, guys, as manager of Spain, which is incredible. He's taken on another manager who's going to manage his 26th World Cup game next time out. That's going to be a World Cup record. So it's going to be tactical. I think it's going to be tight, but it's going to be watchable because there's just so much talent on the field, and who's going to blink first. So bring on next week. It's a dream semifinal here for this World Cup.
100%.
The Stars absolutely carrying their teams to the late stages of this World Cup, and that very much includes Erling Haaland, who is taking Norway, who on June the 11th, gentlemen, were ranked number 31 in the world. So, of course, they get the Three Lions on Saturday. It will be a 3 p.m. Mountain Time kickoff. Looking forward to that one. And Erling Haaland and Norway, as much as they're enjoying the row, they're also showing that they're just happy to be here.
I mean, playing against Brazil was kind of crazy for us Norwegians, and to win against Brazil and then go and play England in the quarterfinal in the World Cup is in the USA is quite special. And I think if you watch at the scenes back in Norway, this is not normal for Norway to be. So. It's super special. I've said it plenty of times, even before the Brazil game, I didn't expect, and right now I didn't expect it. To be honest, to be quarterfinals with Norway in the World Cup is quite surprisingly even for me. So yeah.
Well, it's one of our favorite terms of the 2026 World Cup. Maybe this is a free hit for Norway up against England. And Michael, two big-time strikers in this match, of course. Erling Haaland in this brilliant story with the Norwegians. And Harry Kane, 13 goals between the two of them. And when you consider what they were able to do for club respectively, Harry Kane, of course, now playing straight outside of the Premier League, and Erling Haaland being one of the biggest stars in English football right now. These are two heavy hitters, but which would you rather have on your team, Michael?
I'd like to have both, actually, but I guess that's not possible.
Not an option, sir.
Not an option. Well, for me, it's Kane, and I take Kane slightly over Haaland purely because of history, experience at this level, and also where he is in his career, and what he's bringing to this England team. And you know, right now he's the reason that they're here, quite frankly, as it relates to doing what the game's all about, and that's scoring goals. And I think he takes it slightly purely based on his experience and what he's going to bring to this. And he's the first one on my team sheet.
Me too. I've proclaimed him as the best player in world football today. And it's not just because of the goals, it's because everything else that he does. His passing of the ball is extraordinary. His ability to lead a team, he really ticks all the boxes. Like, now it's not just about the goals, it's about the goal interventions, like goals and assists. He's just so efficient in the way that he plays, and he makes everyone better around him. He drops deep like a 10, but he has no problem getting forward and playing like a 9. Haaland is a rare breed. He is like an out-and-out beast of a number 9. I am shocked that the world is just figuring out who Erling Haaland is, by the way, at this tournament. Like, my wife is like, this guy's got memes all over the board. Who is this Viking? He now has more Instagram followers than Manchester City, which shouldn't surprise anyone because City's a small club, but Haaland is a big player. But they both play the game in just completely different ways. It's very hard to compare. But if you're going to ask me tomorrow what things will look like, they're playing in Miami, guys. It is going to be hot. Journalists were happy to go out and do 5K runs in Mexico City to show what it's like running at altitude. Try running in 43-degree heat in Miami. And I think that Kane's overall play and what he's able to contribute might be a little bit more of a difference maker tomorrow. Haaland is dependent on service. Odegaard, Nusa, Schlotterup, Bob, they were all great last game. But England has showed that tactically under Thomas Tuchel, they can play good teams with good attackers. And I think that they'll just be well-structured and very difficult to break down. So because Kane isn't solely dependent on service, I'll go with Harry Kane as my pick.
And as
we got two Kanes in our team.
Yes.
There you go. You got your wish after all, Michael. And
our team would be able.
The Three Lions star, of course, Harry Kane, has the Ella Langley stamp of approval. And for me, that's all it takes. So I'm going to make it a clean sweep with the three of them. Okay, there's still a long road to go, Gareth, for this group. But you consider what is at stake for both of these clubs. England, the pressure that comes with playing for that country and going to try to bring it home once again. Can you put into words what is on the shoulders of this English side, which should be considered the heavy favorites here?
It's funny. Typically, I would suggest that the weight of the world is on England's shoulders. But sometimes when you win a game in a tournament against all odds, you come out of it in a much better place with all kinds of confidence and maybe a different lease on life. And I think that the way that things played out at the Azteca, where the condition, like so many things were in Mexico's favor, and England's a better side, but going down to 10 men and being able to hold on the way that they did, it was gutsy. Like, they showed a ton of character. And after the game, you saw the jubilations and the celebrations, the John Stone. Anyways, that was quite the moment. Like, I just feel like this team is galvanized right now. They're playing with one another. Tuchel built a team that's kind of like, it's not about shoehorning players into a team. It's about putting the best 11 on the field. I think he's just doing that. I think Norway, they have an uphill climb here. They've never beat a European foe in a World Cup competition. They haven't scored against England the last 4 times. And Ezri Konsa has been a little bit of a Haaland whisperer. When he's played for Aston Villa, he's locked up Haaland on a number of occasions in recent vintage. So I'm not worried about the pressure tomorrow. I'm worried about the conditions and what that might mean for both teams. Michael, my family's obviously from the UK. I mean, people are complaining it's like 25 degrees there right now. And I know Norway isn't a warm weather climate either. I think it's just going to have a huge effect on the way that the game's going to be played.
Well, first on that note, conditions, yes. I mean, spent enormous amount of time in that area in Miami and certainly in the Caribbean with the teams that I've been involved with. And I think people appreciate exactly what it does in terms of the humidity levels and how it affects your legs. Interesting enough, people probably saw it. It was internet frenzy for a while, but Thomas Tuchel doing a lot of heat adaptation training prior to the World Cup, months before, to see who could take it under severe pressure and severe heat adaptation. So, they've done some research and from an overall medical and technology point of view, there's ways to measure that. But coming out of the Azteca, I think there is an enormous positive vibe to what England has right now, and how they're going about doing their business. That was a good word you used, Wheels, about there's no real egos involved in there, because that's the danger always with the England teams. And I'll be honest with you, I think this game, along with what happens next, is more about validation. We always talk about, they talk about it's coming home, the eggs and bacon, it's the home of football, all of the things that go along with being England. For them to perform in these environments, and also to be able to deliver tactical applications that maybe they haven't done in the past. I think that's a validation of the team and the program and where they're going. I think it's a validation of the players, most importantly, that they're able to buy into a system and work as a collective unit. And guess what? It's a validation of Thomas Tuchel in terms of the selection as him as coach, because, you know, he took the heat, as all England managers do, in terms of who they select. And currently right now, it's a tick box. He selected the right players for the right team, for the right methodology. And again, I'll use the word validation over the next two competitive matches.
Okay, the nightcap tomorrow will be played in Kansas City. Argentina very much surviving Egypt, one of the wildest finishes of this tournament so far. They will be taking on Switzerland with a 9 p.m. Eastern time, 8 p.m. Central kickoff. And I guess the question is, Michael, are the holders, Argentina, vulnerable in this quarterfinal?
Look, you get to this point in any competition, and you get there because you deserve it, and you deserve it because you win the games you need to win. That's the bottom line. We can talk all we want about it, but that's the reality. So, you know, everybody is in a position to do well. The area of Argentina for me is going to be, do they have enough to break down this Switzerland team? And let's be very honest about this too. I had a long discussion with a friend of mine the other day who works with me at the TDS program with FIFA, and talked about how we talk about 2 or 3 phases in the game. You're attacking, you're defending, and your free kicks. And we rave about the idea of the attackers, but we educate coaches in all 3 phases. And when we don't talk enough about the defending phase and being able to honor and celebrate that, that's exactly what you have with Switzerland. And this is going to be a tall task, I believe, for Argentina to break this team down. They're very much like a Swiss movement in a watch. They're efficient, they're organized, they're disciplined, they don't get very emotional, and their exit passing is excellent in terms of once they've won it in deep areas, they find people in transition. I think it's going to be a very difficult game for Argentina, but you can't count out Argentina as you know, reigning champions and Mr. Messi, and along with all the other cast of characters that are around him, because this is still a very, very good team. And you could see that Scalini's changes showed what sort of depth they have when they come up against something. So I think it's a very difficult ask at the end of the day, based on some of the very, very positive things Switzerland have done.
I think that Argentina will be thrilled that they're playing Switzerland and not Colombia, because that kind of derby match in a tournament like this with the emotions, the familiarity, I don't think that would have been a game that this Argentina team would have relished at this point, because they have looked a little bit vulnerable. The thing is, they can outscore their defensive issues. Again, a back four that isn't that great. They have 2 center backs in Romero and Martinez who are very good footballers, but oftentimes they make mistakes and they're better at covering up their mistakes than actually not going out and making them in the first place. That's just the nature of them. Same thing with their fullbacks. Like, they're a team that is still built around Lionel Messi, but they have a really good manager in Scaloni. And late in that last game, when things were going against them against Egypt, they were blocked in. He just turned to the bench, and then at the same time, he has Messi, Martinez, Alvarez. He has Nico Paz. He can still use on the bench. Just a brilliant player. Different wide players to bring in for different occasions. His team is just so deep and is so good. Switzerland, their route forward is playing compact. Well, I think that it's been shown over 90 plus minutes. If you do that against Argentina, it's not going to end in your favor. Remember, Argentina have now won 11 World Cup games in a row, and in each and every one of them, they've scored at least 2 goals. So based on that, is Switzerland going to be able to go and score twice against Argentina? Because I think that's what it's going to take. They could probably find a goal in this game. I have no doubt about that. But can they go out and score multiple goals to really put Argentina on their heels? I just don't see that as a pathway forward, Adam. I can't see a scenario where Argentina isn't playing next week in a World Cup semifinal. I just can't. And that's no disrespect to Switzerland. It's just, these are the champions that we're talking about, with some of the best players, attacking players in world football still within their team.
So then, Gareth, with that hanging over our heads, if there's to be a hero for Switzerland, who would it be? Who's your tell-us player to watch?
Yeah, my player to watch is Granit Xhaka. He's going to have a lot of work to do in the midfield. Remember, this has been a very important player to every team that he's played on, not just Switzerland. 2 years ago, he was part of the never losing Bayer Leverkusen invincible season. And then last year, he goes to Sunderland, a team that just got promoted to the Premier League, and he's taken them all to Europe, all the way to be playing European football next season. He's a leader. He has grown so much from his time at Arsenal, where he was unpredictable, erratic, and oftentimes his biggest problem was going on between the ears, more so than anything else. He's going to have to be the glue that holds this team together in very difficult times. And to shut down Argentina, you need someone to shut down Lionel Messi. I know it's very old school tactic, Michael, for a player to like essentially shadow someone else, especially like someone like Lionel Messi. But do you stick someone like Xhaka on Messi, understanding that Messi is not going to do the defending that's required to be done on Xhaka to stop those him playing balls out in transition and try to hold on to the ball for dear life whenever they can. I'm just not quite sure what that might look like.
Yeah, I don't see it. I personally, I watch experiment and have seen man marking type scenarios with players like Messi, and it generally does not end well. And that's because he understands that a player of that magnitude, and he'll drag players into areas and create those other little spaces and pockets for other players to be involved with. And you make a really good point about Xhaka, and I think you have to look at Akanji and Elvedi in there, and Freuler, the other midfielder, sort of forming a box there, that they need to deny any of this sort of close interpassing in that central area, where that's where you can release Messi in those areas. So I think, if anybody's going to be a star in this game, it's going to be, as you say, Xhaka, or it's going to be a combination of him and his friends in the two central positions, because I think they've been outstanding in this tournament in terms of what they've done as a defensive unit. And again, I go back to, not a lot of people like to applaud and honor defending because it doesn't sell tickets, so to speak. But, when you're coaching and when you have people around you, you really see the art in that. And being present the other night at the game with Colombia, they ran the show. They bossed it, and they bossed it with some really, really great defensive performances.
All right, 2 great quarterfinals that we are looking forward to tomorrow. But when we come back to the program, we'll steer the conversation back towards Canada and our young Reds. What's to come for them in 2026? Potentially the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic Games, amongst other local and international competition. That's next when Bet365 for the Win returns.
For the Win on One Soccer is presented by Bet365.
The game isn't over yet, but Gary just got paid with Bet365's early payout when his team went up 2 goals. Now, Gary can't stop celebrating. And honestly, we're not even sure he knows how.
Or forever hold it.
Download the Bet365 app and get paid out early when your team goes up 2 goals.
Here. Oh, what a move. That is a quality ball. Now the run into the box.
We were there for your first game together. The day you taught him the rules and the answer for every question. We've been there for the good times and a few moments we don't talk about. And now
who won the most Canadian Classics?
It's a passion you can share. And we're just happy we could be there. 20 years, and we're still growing. Together.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Samsung.
Well, Charles de Ketelaere certainly made it interesting in Los Angeles with a wonderfully headed goal in the 41st minute. Mikel Moreno would play the hero once again for Spain, deservedly so if you look at the full-time stats, almost quadrupling the expected goals, the shots on target as well, possession, just about every major metric. We'll see Spain moving on. And there in LA to take it all in and give us an update after the full-time whistles, One Soccer's Christian Jack.
At around 9:30 a.m. on this World Cup Friday here in Los Angeles, the family members of the Spanish team gathered in a hotel lobby on the outskirts just outside LAX. They did not know where it would take them after this, but initially they boarded a bus that said LA Experience on it. And what an experience they would have as Luis de la Fuente's side, Spain, get to a semi-final for just the second time in World Cup history, the Final Four for just the third time. The Spanish members of the family got to watch what was a brilliant Spanish performance in what was a very good game. First of all, spare a thought for Belgium. They lost Anana before the game, Tielemans in the warm-up, and Courtois during the match. Lammers coming in, his replacement, was the one who spilled it for Moreno to get the late winner. Not only once, but twice now in knockout football does he have a late winner. There was a lot of discussion here in La La Land about Lamine Yamal, the teenage sensation. But he was only the one teenager that everyone wanted to talk about coming in. But now we talk about another. Think about his Barcelona teammate, Pau Gassi. I go back to that hotel lobby this morning as some of the big names came out with the names on the back and the family members were shining and smiling, anticipating what could happen. There was Cabassi's parents, just two carpenters from the tiny town of Estanyol, the Catalan villages, who continue to work hard, getting ready to watch their teenage son play in a World Cup quarter-final. He was brilliant, and again was the one who set up the goal, making the shot that Lammers spilled. We now go on to see Spain versus France for a third year in a row in a key semi-final. Cabassi versus Mbappe will once again be a matchup worth watching. He did it well once in the Champions League back when he was 17. You would not definitely write off Spain at this point. A brilliant game, a brilliant quarter-final, ended late by Spain as they move on to Dallas.
This is Our House presented by Samsung. Today, a discussion of the Canadian under-20 men's side who will be playing in Puebla before the month is over. 3 huge Group C matches that they will try to win, set themselves up for the knockout because, gentlemen, this is a huge tournament. Not only is the Under-20 World Cup on the line for Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan next year, the Pan American Games and the Olympic Games, all tournaments that this will be used as a qualifier and a feeder for. Now, there's not much in the way of spots for the Olympic Games. The Americans are hosting. They already have one of the spots. So in theory, Canada needs to go all the way to the final to be playing in LA 2028. But let's start this conversation with you, Michael, as a former Canadian assistant coach yourself. You understand what it means to work within an ecosystem. Yes, the coach is responsible for the success of his or her team, the X's and O's, but there's oversight, there's layers, technical directors and senior national team head coaches. That's normal. What's maybe unusual for Canada is we don't always see the senior national team head coach joining the staff in some capacity to try to help implement that message, the playing philosophy, etc. But Jesse Marsch is going to be there. Of course, I want to get Gareth's thoughts on this as well, but let's start with you, Michael, on what this might mean to have Marsch around.
No, I think it's very valuable. Just an example, when I was the head coach of Grenada, I was also officially the head coach of their U-20 team. And so I participated in that. So I understand what Jesse's, thoughts and mentality is here. It's about not just establishing, the methodology and his game model to this group, which I'm sure is a shared vision and plan, but it's also really getting an idea of where his gaps are and being able to evaluate players right inside competition, right inside training environments, right inside the meal room, being able to speak to players. And also the other thing that he's going to be doing is he's going to be evaluating the current staff. This age group and with the younger age group has not been successful, quite frankly, in the last little while and in this last rotations. And I think he has to decide exactly what he wants on the pitch for his younger players as it relates to his overall plan. And so he's got multiple objectives when he goes into with this group. And as you just mentioned, the new format and how it's structured, it becomes a very important situation. But I will say one thing, and then you can throw it over to Wheels on this. But one of the areas that this program has to start to understand is the gap years, the in-between years. We do have established CONCACAF and FIFA competitions at 15, at 20, at 23, and soon you'll see 15, which will be announced soon. So these are very important years. Obviously, they're competitive environments and tournaments, but it's the gap years that you want to start working with some of these players, because national team programming, it's about the refinement along with the development. So when you skip a year and you don't participate in those years, that's an issue. So that becomes a player ID function, which means we need to do a greater in-depth plan and implementation around player ID, because there's gaps in our senior men's team, and it takes cycles to give players the opportunity to enter into those gaps. So, it's a big task, but a really, really important task.
This is a really interesting story to me, for a lot of the reasons that Michael addressed. You always want to see your national team head coach engaged with what's going on. And I don't think that's a bad thing, especially coming off a World Cup. Like, Jesse could take some downtime and go away, and no one would bat an eye, because this isn't the lead line just in terms of his job description. It goes well beyond that. What concerns me to a certain degree is, why isn't there another coach capable of overseeing this project, this team at this time? Like, what does this say to other Canadian coaches and other coaches within the program if the national team head coach is like, stand to the side, team, I'm going to be taking this over? I'm not sure what sort of messaging that needs, or what it says about our current crop of national team coaches. It has been an area which has been lost just in terms of oversight since Herdman abdicated that duty midstream when he was trying to get Canada qualified for a World Cup. COVID had a huge impact on the participation and the funding of youth national team programs, and it's continued to be a persistent issue. This is why I thought Kenneth-Heiner Muller was coming into the equation to oversee projects like this and have more of a greater say on how things work. But don't get me wrong, like, Jesse Marsch being involved, I have no problem with that. I just wonder what sort of message this would send. And Michael, being someone that's been part of a number of different associations, I just wonder whether you can maybe answer that to a certain degree. Also to the fact that Jesse Marsch has a very distinct style of play. And the national team is trying to play it that way, whether it needs to be refined. We addressed that on yesterday's show. But is this going to be the way that every single team, from the senior men's national team down to the under 15s, how they decide that we're going to play? And what if Jesse Marsch gets another job offer and packs up and leaves in 2 years? Do we then all of a sudden pivot and change again? This is why all of these issues cannot be on the desk of just one individual. Correct. And that person cannot be Correct. Jesse Marsch. It has to be a collective that's led by Heiner Muller, for me, in order to properly organize and assess where this program needs to go and how to get there. So I'll leave that with you, Michael. I have more questions coming out of this, more so than anything else.
And I think they're good questions. I think their questions have to be asked, and those questions were not being asked. Let's be perfectly frank. They were not being asked of the national teams program. It was sort of hidden in the John Herdman era. You didn't really know what was going on behind the scenes. My own personal opinion is I do not believe that national team should be mirroring the image of its senior team anywhere below U17, because that is about technical prowess. That's about being a better player who then can engage in whatever philosophical, whatever formational, whatever mentality, methodology is implemented by the senior staff above. But as you just said, quite frankly, if Jesse goes, now you're starting the ball again. Now, the addition of Kenneth in this position, this may be the first step in all of this. And that's why I said, I think Jesse's there as someone to get a better idea of exactly what the standard is right now at their national team coach level and the youth level, what is being implemented and what is not being implemented. And I'm sure Kenneth will be standing right there too. But in the end of the day, you're right in the sense that the senior men's national team should not be on, coach should not be on the pitch per se. There should be a lead. Hey, we just talked about Spain. One of the great structures of Spanish football is this progression where they use the coaches at different levels and graduate them all the way through the system. If you look at the history of the current senior men's national team coach, he was working with youth players many, many years ago. This is the type of program that you need to implement here. And we can't be so random like we've been in the past. So maybe this is a step in the right direction, but we'll have to see what sort of answers come out of this.
Yeah, look, one day came through, and then the gradual progression is he's managed a lot of these players before. There's a familiarity in terms of system and some valuable experience. Ouabi as well, the Moroccan manager, the same thing. He came up through the system, through the youth ranks, and now he's taken over the senior men's national side. Because there's a couple of ways I look at this, guys, like the development of young players, like from a club perspective, I think we're starting to do a lot better. I know there's still gaps, there's still a ways to go, but the emerging pyramid in Canadian soccer is going to go a long way to providing the opportunity that wasn't there before. Now we need a national identity and how to bring that together in the best way possible. But part of that identity, like we could talk to we're blue in the face about technical development in this country. Also, why tournaments like this are important. Our kids, our young players need to learn how to win.
Yep.
Like we have not been at an Olympic Games in terms of qualifying for a young player. It went like 3-4 decades. Like it's getting ridiculous here. Like mentality plays a big role. You can go out there and play good football. You need to know what it's like to win. And that's, for me, is why tournaments like this are really important. We just went through, what was it, the qualifying games, what was it, under 17, and we ended up losing to Jamaica. I mean, there's so many guys. I just want to see this team not only develop from a technical perspective, I want the mentality to be developed from a younger level as well. It's just essential. And that's why a tournament like this takes on greater importance to me. Yeah, it's going to be difficult to qualify, but go to win some games and give yourself a chance and add some swagger, much like the men's national team has experienced over recent years.
Experiential moments, competitive moments that are underpinned by the breaks in the years. Because, and again, I'm going to go back to this point, player identification in this country has always been an issue. And one of the biggest issues that we've never looked at since back when there was the National Training Center idea under Holger is the fact that we need to regionalize what's going on in the country. So those players, Wills, you just talked about, are seen. It doesn't matter where they're participating now. It doesn't matter where they're competing now. It's where you take them when you find them. And right now we're spending a lot of time focused on some programs that are delivering some players, but they're certainly not delivering all the players. And so I put a high degree an emphasis on player identification programming and investment in that area from a regionalization point of view, which then you're able to take them into events prior to regional or FIFA competitions and see exactly, do you have the right players at the right time? That doesn't mean you throw them out, the baby with the bathwater. You keep rotating them through until you get to the point where you know what your pool looks like. And there must be a real focus on this player ID and specifically around regionalization.
Okay, Michael, in 30 seconds or less, how important or what is the significance of getting to this LA 2028 Olympic Games?
Well, you guys just said it. The pathway is very difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible because everyone's got to play the game, right? But I look at the U20s and the U23s as very difficult scenarios because U20s is also not a guaranteed release tournament. So clubs do not need to release players. You need to negotiate with. You heard about Jesse calling clubs and wanting players to come in. That is not a part of the negotiated area with FIFA. There is a relationship, and people generally do. But you see, if players are playing in a top league or getting professional minutes, I'd rather be bringing a player up that we can continue their development and leave that player in that environment they're working in at U20 and onwards, because they're probably getting competition on a longer term basis. But what is important is the application, the performance, and displaying that interest in wanting to be successful within that environment, you know. And as I said, it's not going to be easy, especially for the Olympic side of it. But the U20 side of it, looking at the group, I see no reason why this team shouldn't be competitive and get results and actually, you know, put that fighting mentality on the pitch at that moment in time to prove that this is just not about one rotation. It's got the opportunity to be another rotation after another rotation after another rotation. And that starts with being competitive and successful in these types of tournaments. No player judging per se, because I think it's very difficult anywhere under that U17 to U20 area to all of a sudden say you're not the player. You see lots of players who are late bloomers, but it definitely is an area that we need to display some sort of potential.
Okay, with that, we say thank you very much to Michael Finley joining the program here today. We're off to break, but not before showing you the schedule for what's to come for Canada at the U20 CONCACAF Championships. As mentioned, it gets underway for the Young Reds July the 26th against Panama. They'll play Honduras on the 29th and Jamaica on August the 1st. One of those successful young Canadian players who certainly has his experience with the Young Reds, Jeevan Badwal, now playing first team minutes regularly with the Vancouver Whitecaps, including the other day in the Canadian Championship. We'll talk to Jeevan when we come back here on Bet365 for the win.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by General Mills. For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Turkey Farmers of Canada.
In Canada, our future stars don't simply show up on the world stage. They are built from the ground up, right here in the heart of our communities.
Let's go. Come on. Oh, lovely through ball there, Isaiah Johnson! Goal for Halifax!
From a childhood dream to the national team.
Jacob Shuffle, good! Yes! He's got it! Canada, on top of the footballing world!
We are Canada, driven by Volkswagen.
And for Canada, BMO.
After 20 years of supporting the game, we're actually going to play in one. Let's go! So what do you need? Precision striker, rock solid left back?
We need a coin.
For the coin toss? Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I get it. Can I at least flip it? Heads or tails? I'll do that. We're on TV right now. Yeah.
Hey neighbor, meet Walmart Plus, the new membership that does delivery differently. I'm talking unlimited free same-day delivery, free shipping, and no order minimum. And it comes with a Crave subscription too. Yeah, it's like a 2-for-1. Try it free for 30 days. Walmart Plus.
For the Win on One Soccer is presented by Bet365.
The 6, it flies over the first head. It's a bit sloppy. Oh, no! Perlman's toss, loose in the box, and an equalizer from Dan Klump. Smoller finds Brian White, the strike rebounded and scored. Thomas Muller. White's back outside, and it's number 4. Well, after a lengthy break the Whitecaps showed as they return to the TELUS Canadian Championship as if there was any doubts.
And we are thrilled to have joining the program today Jeevan Badwal from the Vancouver Whitecaps, who are finally back in action after, I think it was something, Jeevan, like 72 days without having played in front of your home supporters with the World Cup break. And my goodness, did you guys put on a show for them at Swangard Stadium. One, you defeat Cavalry FC of the Canadian Premier League. Now, I know, Jeevan, for as long as you've been certainly around the first team, we're going on half a decade now for the Whitecaps, having won the Canadian Championship back to back to back to back, looking to make it 5 in a row. How important is that for the club to continue being the #1 team in the country?
No, I think it's very important, as you could tell yesterday, it's a big deal for us to keep on going and, get that 5th championship. But no, it's a really big deal for the club, for the players especially too. Being a player who's grown up watching the Whitecaps and now finally playing here, it's really important for me. But no, I think for all the players, the club staff, the club in general, it's just a really big deal, and we're going to keep on going, getting that 5th championship.
Well, the reason, obviously, for such a long layoff, between matches for you guys is BC Place having been one of the host stadiums for the World Cup. As a Lower Mainland guy yourself and someone who has been through the Canadian development system, just take us through your experience having watched Vancouver transform into one of the dozen or so meccas of football these past little while, and how much you enjoyed being a part of it in Vancouver.
No, it's been amazing. Obviously, before the tournament started, I didn't know how much, what was going to go on and how much people were going to really enjoy it. But, seeing fans, seeing the community, seeing just the Lower Mainland in general come together, and, obviously watching Canada do really well in the World Cup was just an amazing feeling. As a fan who's growing up, watching the game, loving the sport, it was just, love, like there was a lot of pride, a lot of just the community getting together. No, it was just an amazing feeling, and amazing, seeing everyone watching the sport, watching a lot of countries play against each other. And, it's been a really good thing for the city, for the country. And yeah, it was just an amazing feeling.
So that's the fans' perspective, of course. But now, as someone who has aspirations to play in a World Cup and to continue to grow through this Canadian national team setup, we've heard Jesse Marsch might be working through the U-20s and keeping an eye on a group that hopefully will get to the Olympics, which would allow the U-23 players to have another tournament to compete in. What do you need to do, Jeevan, as a player to continue this progression of yours and ensure that when 2030 rolls around, 2034, and all these upcoming tournaments, that you're very much in the conversation?
I think, it's just about, working hard. That's one of my main goals. But it's also learning a lot, and I'm really, grateful to have a great team around me, and, a lot of players around me that are really helping my game elevate. And even the coaches who are really trusting me and, playing me a lot more, and they have a lot of trust in me to grow and keep on going further and further. And yeah, that's just one of the 2 main things, is keep on working hard and keep on learning within the game. That's one of my biggest goals and my biggest dreams as a little kid, is to play with the national team in a World Cup. And looking back at the World Cup, I was really proud of the boys and what they've accomplished. And now it's the next set of young generation, the next set of players to come in and do what they can to help the country.
So after this layoff, for you guys, you come back in MLS action on Thursday, first in the West, right up there competing for the Supporters Shield. And it's kind of interesting, Jeevan, isn't it? When you guys have played in the Champions Cup in years past, oftentimes that's your first sort of proper run out into matches for the calendar year. It's a bit different, I suppose, or the script is flipped, where a lot of the MLS sides are waiting to get back into these competitive matches. You guys have the Canadian Championship and 2 opportunities to get some of that rust off and get back into match rhythm. Considering Monday's second leg in Calgary, how important are these 2 games for your group to ensure that when MLS is properly back, you guys are hitting the ground running?
No, I think it's very important. It's 2, I think Calgary's a really good team. They always do really well in the CPO, and it's a great way to get back into, into the season. Obviously, yesterday was a great way to show that, the Whitecaps are still doing really well. And, that break was very long, and, there's a little bit of rust and stuff here and there, but you could tell that the boys are really looking back, getting back into it. And yeah, the MLS is still a great big deal, Supporters Shield and just staying first in the West. And I know these next 2 games, or the next game, is still a really big one, but it's just for us to, you know, shake off that rust, get back into rhythm, and go along with the big season ahead.
Okay, a comfortable 4-1 advantage for the Vancouver Whitecaps. You can catch the match on Monday. It will be 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:30 p.m. local in Calgary when Jeevan Badwal and the Vancouver Whitecaps look to progress for the 2026 TELUS Canadian Championship semifinals. Jeevan, thanks for joining the show today.
Thank you for having me.
And those are one of the 4 remaining matches in this round of the TELUS Canadian Championship. Prior to the Caps and the Cavs, we'll have a doubleheader on Sunday. Forge back at home, 1-1 with CS Saint Laurent, and Vancouver trying to come from behind at Stade Saputo to upset CF Montréal. Atletico Ottawa and Supra will play their second leg on the 11th of August. One more break. After that, we will be back to wrap up the program with Wheeler's Wager and one final look ahead to tomorrow's quarterfinals of the 2026 FIFA World Cup Finals. You're watching Bet365 for the win.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by General Mills. For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Turkey Farmers of Canada.
We were there. And the answer for every question. We've been there for the good times and a few moments we don't talk about. And now,
Who won the most Canadian Classics?
it's a passion you can share. And we're just happy we could be there. 20 years, and we're still growing. Together.
Hey neighbor, meet Walmart Plus, the new membership that does delivery differently. I'm talking unlimited free same-day delivery, free shipping, and no order minimum. And it comes with a Crave subscription too. Yeah, it's like a 2-for-1. Try it free for 30 days. Walmart Plus.
Canada are really pressing here. Oh, what a move. That is a quality ball. Now the run into the box.
It.
A player Mike bet on just missed an open net tap-in and got subbed off.
I could have scored that in jeans.
Mike doesn't know it yet, but thanks to Bet365's sub-on play-on,
The net was wide open.
his prop bet rolls over to the fresh leg sub coming on. So if the sub scores, Mike still wins.
False alarm, people. My bet's still good.
If your player gets subbed, your bet plays on.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Samsung.
In fact, I'm actually going to see England versus Norway in Miami.
Is it coming
I'll be cheering for England.
Yeah.
That is.
And Thomas Tuchel is my mate and he keeps me posted all the time.
Oh my God. Oh,
yeah.
dropping names.
He's going to win.
Dropping names.
What a mate to have.
It's a good mate to have.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
We're big fans.
Well, Mick and Ronnie aren't the only ones excited for Saturday's matchups. Norway and England, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific. Argentina and Switzerland to follow. We'll see if Lionel Messi and Argentina can carry on. Okay, Gareth Wheeler, your wager, the parlay of the day.
I think there's a high probability the Stones will get some satisfaction out of the game tomorrow, and hopefully you can as well with my 3-game parlay. It's all same game courtesy of Bet365. All the markets we use are courtesy of Bet365. England, Norway, total goals under 3 at +110. It's a big number and a big total because both these two sides, I mean, they score goals and they produce them. In fact, Norway hasn't had a clean sheet in their last 7 games overall, and both teams to score has played in 7 of 7. But it's being played in Miami. It's going to be hot. It's going to be slow. And I just don't see this being a high-scoring game. Anthony Gordon was great at the Azteca. Red circles around the Mexican back line. Julian Rierson is going to have like a difficult time with Anthony Gordon. He drew 4 fouls last time out of the other game that he played. He drew 3. So that is my other parlay, plus 190, 984 if you put all those 3 wagers together in this one. And yeah, let's make some cash here on a Saturday afternoon.
Okay, goals, fouls, and bookings. But now for some pick'ems, Garrett, the lines as we see. Plus 300 for Norway, minus 112 for England, or a draw, plus 270 to take us to extra time.
The bookings really quickly, because Declan Rice is on a card. Elliot Anderson is going to have to cover more ground. And the World Cup Appeals Committee don't listen to the English appeals. They only listen to the United States of America. So.
All right, let's get a pick from you. Pardon me. Argentina minus 143, Switzerland plus 425.
Both teams to score. Combine that with an Argentina win. It comes in around ballpark plus 340. That's the best way to approach this one.
All right, our thanks to Bet365. Our thanks to Michael Finley and Jeevan Badwal. And of course, Gareth Wheeler. Another successful episode of Bet365 for the win. Heartbreak in Brussels tonight, euphoria in Barcelona and Madrid, and tomorrow 2 more nations will learn their fate, at least if those going to the semifinals. Thanks for joining us. Back again tomorrow right here on One Soccer.